Okay, we are back.
We are back. I'm so excited because we're back in a different way.
So welcome to the Mind Body Energy Project.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have that. I wonder if I'm just gonna do something.
So if anybody's listening and they know how to help stop the sounds from emails.
I think I just did it because I had my email was open, and just minimized, so I closed it. So I think that'll do it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So welcome back to the Mind Body Energy Project post tarot series.
Yes. Yep. We set a goal, we achieved it, and we learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned patience.
We learned patience. We learned discipline. We learned organization. And we don't like any of it. That's what we figured out. We like tarot.
I do love tarot. And I think our idea was to break it up the way that we did so that we could really take time all to meditate on the meanings of the cards. But now hindsight, I'm like, girl, we could have knocked that out in 4 episodes. We could have just went one suit a week and done.
Yeah. Live and learn.
Anyway, live and learn.
Which is a great segue for our topic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. But before we get into it, I just want to check with you. How are you, by the way?
I'm doing just fine. Just a lot of things going on.
Realized this is kind of like Back to the Future.
I know. That's why when you asked me, I was like, I'm not sure how am I in the future or how am I right now?
Yeah. How are you now?
How am I right now while we're recording, which is not when you guys are hearing this because we're pre-recording stuff.
Yeah. And we won't be back to working real time until October, mid-October. So all of this is, honey, how are you now?
Right now I'm good. Yeah. I'm finishing up the final touches, almost to the final touches on my chakras course, the first one. Not quite to the final touches, but in the last module and making headway. So I feel good about that.
Well, I am currently going into the 8th week of my intuitive mastery class, 8 out of 12 weeks. And I think by the time this airs, I will be at the end of that class. So so right now I'm in the thick of it, but when this goes live, I will be wrapping it up. So
nice.
Yeah, honey, high five up top. And then we can celebrate the launch of your chakra class.
Yes. I can't wait. It's
Yeah.
like my little baby. I'm so excited about it.
I know. It's really interesting when we, I think anything that we create, I think of artists or musicians, anything that you take time working on. And then when you're about to share it, that's just, there's such a interesting energy that comes up.
So it's super interesting. This is why I can only imagine having kids and sending them to school, because you don't want anybody to pick on them. You just hope you did a good job raising the kid, and then you put it out there and hopefully they're well liked and they're kind and they do good in the world, and then you don't want anybody picking on them.
I know. I think about that too. I'm like, man, I think it amazes me that parents, I mean, obviously, that's what you do unless you homeschool your kids, but I always think about that too. I'm like, man, I don't know if I could do that. I'm such a cuckoo bird.
I'm nervous about my chakras course, and it's just words on a computer. And I'm kind of I'm keeping it tight, and I'm just like, are you sure you want to go out there?
Honey,
go out and do good, right? But
honey, high five to all the parents.
Yes.
For knowing how to just let them go, let them fly, use their wings.
Yeah.
It
gives me a greater appreciation for my parents who didn't battle me when I was like, I'm moving across the country.
Yeah, from my mom's personality, I'm really not surprised. I could imagine she was like, go ahead. You out? Yes, you're going to be great. Yeah. Goodbye. But her personality, no, I don't think she was worried at all. But I have to ask you before we get into today's topic, how are you feeling just now that we finally get back to our rabbit holes? We've been talking about this for so long.
Feel like me again.
Yeah. I feel like we can just relax and just say, whatever we want to say. And
it feels a little bit more relaxed for sure is a good word for that.
Yeah. And I have to tell everybody, I mean, I'm sure we talked about it before. We did, and you tried to get me not to tell the story. But I think it
Was I
excites me.
successful?
No. It excites me because this is like going back to the origin of why we started Mind Body Energy Project anyway. Like this was literally born of us going down rabbit holes and not being able to find our way out and just having fun and laughing at ourselves. So glad to be back.
So happy.
So Tiffy.
The topic?
Yes, I know you had one, a nice, good one you wanted to explore today.
Yeah. Well, I think just to ease us back into, not easy, we don't need any easing into rabbit holes. We kind of dive headfirst into them, but to segue us right into it, we went from doing this tarot journey, which was very structured for us. And while, yes, we wanted that structure, we found that it wasn't actually what it was that really fueled our fire for the MBE project. Because as Yolanda was saying, it is born of just kind of seeing what comes up and just talking about the crazy shit that we talk about. And we learned a lot from that. And our topic is about straying from your path and how it can be beneficial, what you learn about along the way, how it's never permanent. Sometimes we stray from what we think our path is and we're like, oh shit, like here I am, I'm off my path and I'm never getting back on it.
Yeah, that in of itself is so interesting to me because one, it reminds me of a couple of things. One with this in particular with the tarot journey, it really did like highlight for me my impatience sometimes because I was, instead of just being present, by the time we got about halfway through, all I could think about is like, when is this over? So it really, like I was like, girl, like really back in, like be present, be here, just enjoy the journey. But it also reminds me of how much control we usually have around our expectation to outcome, like what we think we want things to look like, what we think our path should be. Like we cling so tight to our own expectations. And a lot of times we lose sight of like the beauty of what we're learning real time.
Yeah. I just wrote that down, how impatience robs us of this wealth of knowledge because, and it's so cliche, but it's about the journey, not the destination.
Right.
It's so annoying. I hate it when people say that to me because I'm like, shut up. I don't care.
Oh, the pen is back.
Oh, yeah. I actually, when I was just writing notes, I was like, oh, I haven't written notes in a while. Here it is.
There's the Bic. Okay, sorry, go ahead, babe.
I don't remember. Oh yeah, the journey. It's about the journey, not the destination. And I find that so annoying sometimes, but it really truly is about the journey because, and we've talked about this before, we race to get to that destination because we see this thing that we want. And yes, we need to create that goal and that vision of where it is we need to get to in order to have this pathway to get to it. But we don't ever necessarily need to know the how, even though we might construct what that how is to get to that goal, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best how. And 1/3 of that how that you've envisioned might be the beginning aspect of it. And that might take a sharp turn and go somewhere else. And then you have to readjust your path, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. But then we get all of these feelings and labels that we put on if we put
on, and I think that's the key. On. Like we put on the
right, that we divert from it, and then we're like, oh, I'm never gonna get there now.
Totally. It makes me think of I did a podcast about this. Like, well, by the time this airs, it'll be like over a month ago. But I was thinking about how when I first started in all of this work, I had clear ideas of like different things I wanted to experience, right? Like classes I wanted to take and, whatever. And I was excited about it all, but I wasn't attached to the outcome. I was just like really just genuinely excited about the possibility of all these cool things I was going to learn and, whatever. But I had no attachment really to like how it unfolded when I was actually going to go these types of things. And what happened was I did all of it, and I wasn't controlling anything. It was just like as simple as, oh, I would love to have that experience, the end. And then as I got more into this and people were talking about law of attraction, blah, 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 I got side railed and got really controlled about my path. Like, this is exactly what I want to do. This is exactly how it has to look. This is exactly how it's supposed to happen. And oh, let me hold my vision and all the stuff they say. And all it did was make me like irritated because my expectations weren't really playing out. So then it like messed up my whole frequency of just enjoying the journey. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was so fixated on the destination that I was like throwing my journey into like a tailspin. Mm-hmm. And so fortunately I came back out of that and gave myself the freedom to like acknowledge what was on my path as it was coming up, seeing the lessons, the things that were unexpected, like why they were showing up. I had to look at all of it in a different way, which made it gave me a deeper appreciation for my path, I think, mm-hmm. and really realizing that, I mean, it's constantly changing and I have no idea what I'm going to be doing like a week from now, let alone a year.
Yeah. And I think that's a really challenging thing for us to achieve sometimes because we're told that we have to plan it out. And even with manifestation, they say like, you need to know exactly what it is you want in order to get it. Mm-hmm. But then there's that place of like, well, how much do I allow it to find me?
Right.
And then also we're bred in this culture of like, you have to have a retirement plan. You better start saving your money now. You better figure out, and not that that's bad advice, it's good advice, but we get so caught up in this, influenced by other ideologies, that we apply it to everything. And then we forget to release that.
Or even thinking there's only one way to do it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I think like people get caught in the fear of thinking it has to look a particular way. Like even something like that, like saving money and this and that. Like I remember too, speaking of money, like I was so programmed to believing that my income could only come from like a corporate traditional job and like mm-hmm. having to work really, really hard and like overexerting myself to, I was in that pattern. So when I came into this work, there was a lot of reconditioning I had to do to accept money for a completely different type of work. And like, mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think if anything, like honoring the changes in our path along the way and not expecting it to, or trying to force it to stay the same, and also not trying to force how it unfolds as much as like that dance of like, yeah, this is what I want to experience, but I'm open to mm-hmm. see how that plays out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also forcing it to look the way we think it's supposed to look, because we also have to remind ourselves that when we see things as a vision in our mind, we only can see it based on that which we've experienced,
our history,
known to
right?
Be true. Yes. So that said, something could formulate in a way that you haven't understood based on your experience or what you've been taught. So it's really opening ourselves up to like being open to receive in the way that things can show up. Just because we haven't experienced it before doesn't mean that it's not a potential.
Yeah. And it's so limiting, mm-hmm. It's kind of like if you put it in like the context of, if we never allowed ourselves to expand beyond what has been known from history, we'd all still be like living like the pilgrims. You know what I mean? Like just interesting. Like when you really think like what would happen or what would life look like if people didn't allow themselves to grow beyond history?
Yeah. We would never have computers.
Right.
It's people like Nikola Tesla and Steve Jobs and these people who are dreamers and like put themselves out like, this isn't something that's been done. Let me give it a shot and see what happens,
Mm-hmm. And there had to be an openness to possibility with that. Like,
right.
While, they may have had like a vision of what they wanted in the end, I'm sure there had to be this part of like the complete unknown. Like, how could you know or envision something that doesn't even exist yet? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
There had to be that openness and like wonderment and like allowance of things to just show you as you go.
Yeah. And I think that's making me think of how we have this deep knowing, we have this deep wisdom that we're tapped into, the collective knowledge that we're all privy to, and we all have it inside of us. But to really get to that, we have to be so open and surrendering to that higher knowledge that is available.
And maybe that's the thing too. I mean, I guess like if you said you have to create a path that never existed before, you would have to go into imagination.
Yes.
You would have to go into like, again, like you're not going to know the detail of how and what and this and that. So maybe even with things that we may have history attached to or an idea, maybe we've seen it done, someone else did it and we think we have to follow their footsteps. Like what if we do tell ourselves like anything is possible, and I am going to take steps to support what I'm trying to create, but I'm also truly like open and allowing my path to reveal things to me. Like almost be like in co-creation with the path itself instead of trying to be the dictator of it.
Yeah, I like that. The co-creator with the path.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that also doesn't sound as big as like when we say co-creating with the universe, which we're doing, but I think in a lot of ways it almost seems like harder to,
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, to get that or really think like, how can I co-create the universe, you know?
Because it encapsulates literally everything. Whereas co-creating with the path, it's just kind of like, okay, you're this team working for this one goal, you know, and it's kind of, it's with you, but the idea of the path is this something greater than us.
Yeah, I think it does, because it like personalizes it a little bit more. So I think there's probably a part of us that believes that's more possible. You know, like, yeah, I could co-create with my path.
Yeah.
Like it's my path.
Have you ever strayed very far off from a path that you had good intentions, like a path that you really wanted to go down and then you had to like take a huge divergence from it?
I can't think of any path I haven't diverted from. You know, like,
yeah,
seriously, like, I mean, I don't know why this is coming to mind, but even as like young as like elementary school, seeing Karate Kid and wanting to go all in on karate. My mom enrolled me into Kempo karate. I did like a few belts and then I wanted to quit. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, I could picture cute little Yolanda doing karate. This must have been the cutest thing you've ever seen.
But everything.
And your little, what do they call the suits? Oh, I forget. Gi, yes, a gi. Oh my God, so cute.
Yeah, but I mean, I did everything. And then I think like fast forward to like, you know, more recent, I was working in corporate. Like if you would have told me then that this is what I'd be doing, I would think you were out of your mind, like out of your mind. And even in this work, like, yeah, like in the beginning I had this idea of like, oh yeah, I'm going to work with people one-on-one only, you know, like, and I only want to work with people that are referred from people I know, because I don't really want to work with strangers. And now I'm like doing stuff like this. Hello, like who knows who's listening? You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I haven't really kept to anything that I thought, or even if I had some things play out the way I thought I wanted to experience it, it still went beyond what I thought. Do you know what I mean?
Let's take that example of working one-on-one with people. Did you have your sights set on that and you were really trying to hone that in and then it just wasn't working out, so you kind of like moved to a different path? Did that happen for you, or you were so open that you let it take whatever shape it did?
I mean, honestly, I didn't know that anything else was possible, because back then all I had seen of people doing work, especially with Reiki, was either one-on-one sessions and then teaching classes. So I really didn't imagine that it would have been anything other than that, because I hadn't seen anything other than that. So really what opened up the path and started to change it a bit for me was once I decided to podcast. Someone who listened to the podcast one time sent me an email and asked me if I taught classes on how to read oracle cards. And I was like, no, but I could. And that was literally the first time I taught an online class. And I don't know if I hadn't been asked, I don't know that it would have been anything I tried, you know? So No.
And the biggest takeaway from that is that you were open to suggestion.
Yeah.
Sometimes we tend to falter from how our lives can expand because we just kind of shut down an idea. You know, if somebody says, do you do this? And we're like, nope, I don't.
And that's that one person, their one question, and that's literally now like the main platform of my business.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. What about you? Have you ever diverted from anything that?
Oh yeah, I'm like a ping pong. I divert and then I get afraid and then I go back and then I ping pong back. Oh yeah, like all the freaking time. And I've also, I also like to, my Virgo moon really likes to set a pace and a purpose and a pathway. Mm-hmm. And I have to follow that. And I, as a kid, I was like this too. If I got knocked off that path, like everything would just go haywire and I would lose my shit. Mm. And so that kind of happens all the time. But at first it took a lot of understanding and training to admit that would happen.
Yeah.
That comes from perfectionism, which comes from a whole other list of childhood things. But I had to understand that. You know, I had to understand, well, why am I such a perfectionist? What does it mean? Like, I had to do all this investigative work of myself.
Yeah.
To really recognize it, hone in on it, and then accept it and honor it, you know, and be like, yeah, like, you know what? I am a perfectionist and this is why. So now that I'm aware of it, I can see it for what it is. And when I observe it coming into situations, then I can be like, oh, I see you there, perfectionist. I need you to take a seat.
Yeah.
You know? And I have to put it aside to then be able to diverge and not fall apart.
And that's why we're so like complementary to each other, because I'm total opposite. Like, I like to explore, and it's more of a challenge for me to be diligent enough to follow things all the way through. Because like once I stick my toe in something, I'm all in. It's exciting. Once I kind of got a sense for it, then I'm bored and want to move on to the next thing, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've really had to learn how to be disciplined to allow myself to stay on a path long enough to see things through. Mm-hmm. Right? But I am the part of being open to allowing the path to change, that part really isn't a challenge for me. I've always, again, my curiosity allows that very easily. I think the bigger challenge for me is how to not stray from things.
Yeah.
I'm working on, because honey, I will be like, oh, bye.
Yeah. It's so funny. We are such a good complement in this manner, because I want the map. I want to look at the map first. I want to see what's on the map and be like, okay, yes, I'm going to go in there because now I see what we're doing. Or I want to look at it and be like, nope, not for me. Moving on. Because I know that if I'm on it, even if I'm halfway through this and I'm like, this is not for me, I'm going to go all the way through with it, which is why I've stayed in corporate 2 different times for way too long.
Yeah.
But, and I think this is like the crux of our conversation, or at least what I had in mind for it, is that even if you do, I stayed on a couple of paths way too long, but what I learned about them was so, it was so valuable.
Yes.
And, you know, and I bet a lot of people can say this about relationships too. You know, we stay in things that we know maybe not be aligned with us. And then after the fact, we're like, well, shit, I knew it all along. And then regret could set in, you know, or guilt or whatever. But like, instead of those feelings, be like, no, I learned so much more from having been on this path, and that's okay. And we're always in the right place at the right time, no matter what anyways.
Totally.
So to accept that, honor that, and then look back and be like, okay, I did stay in it that long. What did I learn?
Yeah. And that's why I think it's never too long, right? Like, yeah. I think for us, like hindsight, we're like, because I can see where I wanted to leave and I didn't. So I stayed too long. But really the truth is you stayed until you got the lesson or the point, or right? Because for me, like, I think of corporate again as the example. I was burnt out, like far beyond the transition actually happened. Like I was burnt out, but I stayed because of like the stability, the like doing the right thing, the responsibility, like I had to take care of things. So there were reasons that I stayed, which make a whole lot of sense to me. So it's like, I think that's why I don't have any regret around it, because I totally understand why I stayed. But exactly what you said, I do see the benefit of how much I learned in that environment. And I do think that for my path, that was absolutely a necessary component, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes we saying things too, well, we think we saying things too long and it ends terribly, right? And we could then, like, I could have gotten out of this sooner. But the other thing is, like, sometimes we really need an acute slap in the face from the universe to really drive home the message and the lesson that we need to learn. You know, sometimes we start to beat ourselves up because we're like, I should have seen this coming. And now it escalated to this level that now I have to deal with so much more when I could have been done with it before. But the reality is like, you kept yourself there subconsciously knowing that you really needed this to be driven home in order to learn from it, you know. Should you choose to apply that going forward, that's up to you. But what I also think is great about that, and then you mentioned burnout as well, is that the more you do it and the more you're aware of the journey and the path that you're on and you're present in that, then the more you can start noticing the signs the next time it happens, because we go in cycles, you know, and you can start noticing like, oh, here's those signals. Let me investigate like why I'm feeling this, and then reassess. Okay, is it time to move on? Is it time to do something different or take a slight change in the path?
Exactly what you said is what you just said is what you made me think of with the first thing you said. I was thinking about like, that's why I think being vulnerable with ourselves and being honest with ourselves is so crucial to this work, because you have to be able to acknowledge exactly what you're saying and then start to look at the why. Like, well, why am I staying? And then you'll start to recognize, oh, like, oh, it's a fear, or, oh, it's a belief, or, oh, okay, well, now you have something to actually work with. And you may find that maybe you still decide to stay, but you'll understand the why behind why you're doing it, which I think in a lot of ways takes the angst out, because now it's more clear for us. We can clarify, but the other beauty of it is it brings the responsibility.
You could do it. I believe in you.
No, the house made a noise and it was like it threw off my speech. That's odd.
Did you get a slight possession for a half a second?
No, it was like I was near the door and I heard the chime and it like took my speech with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So it brings us into that responsibility and recognizing we do have choice in it, you know, and like, what are you going to do about it? It's all on you. And if it is like a fear or a belief or a blah, 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 at least then you can come up with a system of, well, how do I work through this so I don't have to stay in a place that I don't want to be? You can probably move on quicker, stray from your path quicker, create a new path, maybe not stray from, but further develop your path, go to the next cycle or phase of your path much quicker than you would before the universe punches you in the face about it.
Yeah. Just to stray from the topic a little bit, I was trying to resist sharing this, but I can't. I don't even feel like I should, but I'm going to, because I can't get it out of my head now. But when you said that you got distracted by that noise and you lost your speech, that has happened to me when I'm teaching yoga, because somebody would fart and then I got completely lost, because all of a sudden they acknowledge it and they're like, sorry. And I'm like, I know you're sorry and I'm sorry too. And like, this is awkward. And my empath self starts to feel bad for them because I know they feel bad, but it's like, you don't know what to do.
Wait, I need to know
what yoga.
No, I need to know what type of yoga class you have going on. I think it speaks a lot to you that someone would feel comfortable enough to admit that they were the one that broke wind, because I have been in plenty of yoga classes where somebody tooted and nobody said it. Honey, I think that is amazing that people actually own up to that.
Well, there weren't a whole lot of people in the room, so everybody knew.
But it's still...
But it caught me so off guard, and I was like, I forgot vocabulary. Is this my mouth? How does it work?
Someone passing gas threw you off your path. Honey, that is funny. I'm glad you shared that one. Oh, we're back. We're back at our house.
That's another thing too, is when you get off your path, when you do something different and you don't feel like yourself, once you get back on it, then you're like, oh yes, this is myself. And which is a good thing to acknowledge, because a lot of people are like, they're always saying like, I don't feel like myself. But like, do you really know who yourself is if you haven't tried on these different things, right?
Yeah, but what you said too, it made me think of like how liberating it feels when we can laugh at ourselves along the way. Because imagine like the person who passed gas in yoga and didn't admit it, they're sitting there the whole time worried that everybody knows it's them. So now they're like out of their presence of practice because they're like, does anybody know what's going on? But the person who admitted it, even though it was a flash of embarrassment, they liberated themselves.
Yeah.
Just say,
yeah.
I think from that story, Tiffy, I got be able to laugh at yourself along the way.
It's true. We all do dumb things or things that we have labeled as embarrassing, but you know what? We all do it. It's fine.
Yeah, this reminds me of too. I remember years ago talking about, and I think it's because there's so much emphasis on people wanting to be in their purpose and be on the right path. And I remember a long time talking about like, you're always on your path. It's just,
right.
We have different choices within that path. Some choices may support us along much easier, and some we may find, or we create the resistance, but we still have an opportunity to learn. So yeah, I think it's like, maybe like sometimes we stray away from expectation, right? But the beauty in that is that we often find that what we expected was limiting us to what was possible to actually experience.
Yeah, I think that's a really great reminder to remind ourselves that we're always on our path. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like self-punishment when we examine what we're doing and be like, oh, I'm not on my path. And then it's an excuse to punish ourselves, right? It's an excuse to blame and put off this thing rather than saying, no, I'm actually on my path, because being on our path requires responsibility, right? Because if you're saying that you're not on your path, then are you happy about it? And are you doing anything about it?
Right. And like
rather than just accepting.
of that, like how much we beat ourselves up for thinking we're not doing what we're supposed to do. And even not looking at like, where does that even come from? Do you know what I mean? Are you
expectations?
But whose expectation?
Exactly. Somebody else's.
A lot of times it's somebody else's.
Societal, cultural, familial. Yeah. But again, and then coming back to that, examining the influences and where they're coming from requires responsibility of being like, I'm choosing this. Yes. I like this. I'm stripping away the layers of all these other things that have influenced me to find myself. And that can be scary.
Totally.
I don't know why we have now created this construct in society that it's scary to know who you are.
And you know what? Another thing with that, it makes me think of not thinking that your path equates your work, right? So I think sometimes people don't allow themselves to try or explore what they feel called to do because they think it's not responsible, not realistic, all of these things, but you're already making it bigger than it has to be. You know what I mean? Like, say if you always thought like, I would love to have been an artist, well, go take a class on Saturday, like once a week, once a month. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like you can also incorporate things that you would like to experience on your path, and they don't have to be the entirety of your life.
And you may even find too that if you sprinkle in those things that you think you want to be your path and you start sprinkling them in a little bit just to experience it, you might find that you actually don't really like it. So thank God you didn't give up your good, stable job that you like to go try to be an artist and then realize that it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to allowing the path to unfold, because maybe you do just give yourself an opportunity to play, take an art class on Saturdays. And if you stay consistent with it, who knows, some opportunity may arise that you were never expecting that allows you to then morph another path. Who knows? But it's like, be open to possibility, but definitely follow like allow yourself to bring in elements of what brings you joy, so you never in that regret of not trying or not doing or feeling like you didn't fulfill whatever was supposed to be on your path.
Yeah. And we hear that term open to possibility so often, and that again, it sounds really big, you know, and I think bringing that down to just being like, it could just be this little side companion, you know, or it's like, just be open to whatever shows up, you know, because we get so rigid in our routine and rigid in like, this is how things work. And how audacious of us, right, to think that we know how things work.
Yeah.
And closing ourselves off to the possibility of something, even at the tiniest little thing, can make such a huge difference.
You know, it just made me think of, there was a period where I thought, oh, I think I want to go back to playing violin again. And then
God, I want to do that with you.
Like, oh gosh, I don't have time for that. Yeah, I do, because on Sunday, I surely make time to like check all the way out, disconnect from my computer and everything, lay in my bed and watch some Netflix. Okay. Yeah. That could be time of playing the violin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's interesting too, the conflict sometimes of what we say we want, but then the excuse we make to counter it. And it's not even real. It's not even true.
Right. Yeah. But again, that comes back to the response.
I don't feel like going to buy a violin.
That's your new excuse? Amazon.com.
I think that's probably what's true. The idea of like, oh, I gotta go get a violin, and then I gotta.
Are you really good at it? Do you know that's my favorite instrument, and I would give anything. Okay, I wouldn't give anything to be able to play it, because then I thought about I'd give my arm, and I need both of those to play a violin. Rabbit hole.
Really do.
Yeah. But I would love to just wake up one day and be able to play the violin. That would be so magical.
No, I don't even. I remember the strings, like what the letters of the strings are. I don't think I could read the music anymore. And I know for sure I can play one song by heart, because someone I dated in my late 20s, early 30s, their nephew started taking violin. And one day I was like, oh, give me your violin. And I played the song that was my favorite song. And I was like, oh, still got it. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So hopefully, if nothing else from this conversation, like always, we always love to get you to think and have considerations. And for me, I'm glad personally we had this conversation, because it's a reminder to me to try to be more lighthearted about my path, you know?
Yeah.
I
always need to be lighthearted about everything. So your reminder is a good reminder for me too.
Well, thank you for this rabbit hole. This was a good topic, Tiffy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's funny too, why I love our rabbit holes, is because we never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's like Tiffany literally said, let's talk about straying from your path. Okay, what about it? And here we had like almost an hour of conversation that I thoroughly enjoyed having with you. And I'm glad we're back.
Yeah, that's part of like the charm of the MBE project, is that we never prepare, just so you guys know, because we like to see how organically things just arise.
Yeah. And that tarot journey took us a little bit out of that, but
took us a lot of it out of it. Let's
that may have been why we struggled, because prior to that, like, we were never so formatted, you know?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I think our flow together, and it's funny because you are very like formatted in your life, like with your charts and your everything that
we're talking about.
And even though I say I'm more like willy-nilly, I do still have like a system, and I do like, you know, check my boxes every day. But for some reason, when we come together, we seem to just like do really well when we're like just free. Like, let's just go and see what happens.
Yeah. Don't put MBE project in the corner.
Nobody puts MBE in the corner.
We did. We put it in the corner. We put it in 4 different corners for a few months, but we learned.
Yeah. So
we learned so much.
With that said, like, throw something at us, like throw a topic at us. We love to just see what comes out of our mouths.
Yeah. This could be a fun game for you guys. Like, just give us something. Let's see what they do with it.
Yeah. Yes. Because we truly don't like prepare ahead of time. Like, this is what we're going to say about that. Like, no.
Yeah.
It'll be really authentic too.
And we'll honor it. We'll honor the topic. So I got a little nervous saying that out loud. But yeah, we're pretty willing to take on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, yeah, just.
We just say with a little bit of caution.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like, I mean, come on. Like,
I know, me too.
Yeah, but whatever. So yeah,
we'll do what we can.
Yeah, send us a message and let us know. Tiffy, it's so great to be back. Now we are, I think when this posts, we will be in, no, we won't. We're in a time now where you should be counting down for your birthday. I do know that much.
Oh yeah.
Tiffany's birthday countdown has begun.
I'm counting down from November 4th. I count down the days to my birthday.
The day your birthday's over, you start like the whole.
Okay, not really. November 4th is the most depressing day of my life every year.
So everyone knows that's the day after her birthday.
Yeah, so my birthday is November 3rd.
Amazing. You should create like an advent calendar for it.
Where I give myself presents every day. You're right.
Yes,
I should.
You should. You should create like the whole song to go along with it, just like the 12 days of Christmas, like the whole 9.
I might do. This is sparking some really great ideas right now.
It could become like a festival of sorts. Yeah, honey. Yes. High five.
This is good. This is good.
We'll keep you all posted. So is that it for our rabbit hole?
I think so.
Back on the block?
Yeah. Any questions regarding this or comments, please let us know.
Yeah. And thank you for sticking with us through the tarot journey. And thank you for being here now. We appreciate your presence.
Yeah. Bye.